And so she kicked the tires on this deal, and at the end of the day said, look, I just can't approve this.
Now, the most important stories from across the country and here at home. A deeper dive into the biggest stories impacting you and your family.
People are fascinated with the brand new technology.
Your wallet and your money.
We're obviously in the middle of back to school. That product is on shelves and stocked.
Plus the positive and the inspirational.
I wanted to actually do something and make an impact in the community.
I'm Tom Hansen. Your news starts now. We go now to a plea deal between the Department of Justice and Hunter Biden falling through this morning. President Joe Biden's son facing federal tax charges following a probe by the DOJ. And now the hearing on those charges ending with a hold on that expected plea deal. Cole Higgins tells us what's next in the case and the possible political implications.
Drama in Delaware. Hunter Biden's expected plea deal with the Justice Department unraveling in a federal court in Wilmington. U.S. District Judge Mary Ellen Noriega not accepting a plea deal between Department of Justice prosecutors and Hunter Biden's legal team.
Very telling that the judge intervened here and said basically, no, I'm not going to approve some sweeping blanket deal.
Judge Noriega saying she's concerned by the two parties seemingly linking a tax plea agreement to resolving a felony gun charge, calling the deal in which Biden would enter a diversion program to resolve the charge unusual, and eventually asking both sides to file additional briefs explaining the plea deal's legal structuring.
I mean, that tells you that the court has serious concerns about other potential charges here and also the scope of the deal, which seemed outrageous from the beginning.
Prosecutors say Hunter Biden failed to pay between $1.1 million and $1.5 million in taxes before legal deadlines. Biden entering a not guilty plea for now. Meanwhile, House Republicans moving ahead with their own broader probe of the Bidens based on unverified allegations that the president is tied to his son's foreign business deals.
There are serious questions about potential corruption, and that ought to be a concern for every American, and it is for me.
So far, there are no proven links between Hunter's business deals and his father, who has denied any involvement. Cole Higgins, Now News.
Cole, thank you for that. And now to another high-profile trial. Actor Kevin Spacey has been acquitted on all counts of sexual offenses 20 years ago involving 4 men. Prosecutors argued Spacey was a sexual bully and preyed on younger men between 2004 and 2013. He claimed the relationships were consensual. This is his second legal victory. A jury also sided with him last fall in a lawsuit brought by Star Trek Discovery actor Anthony Rapp. In a court filing, former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani admitted he made false statements about 2 Georgia election workers. He accused them of rigging the 2020 election and counting extra votes. Mother and daughter duo Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss filed a defamation lawsuit last year against Giuliani because of the accusations. Giuliani says his statements did not cause damages and argues they were protected speech. A federal judge still has to review the filings. Attorneys for Freeman and Moss issued a statement after learning of Giuliani's comments. It said the two, quote, honorably performed their civic duties in the 2020 presidential election in full compliance with the law, and the allegations of election fraud he made against them have been false since day one. Irish singer Sinead O'Connor has died today at the age of 56. It comes 1 year after her son, 17-year-old Shane O'Connor, died of suicide. She was known for topping the charts around the world in the 1990s, I should say, with the song Nothing Compares to You, and her television appearance on Saturday Night Live when she infamously tore up a picture of Pope John Paul II. Her cause of death is still unknown. We'll be right back. Turning now to the oppressive heat causing major problems across the nation. Blistering temps are now punishing the Midwest and building in the Northeast. Combined with the humidity, it feels like triple-digit temps for millions of Americans. And the extreme weather is dangerous for the people working in the heat, too.
We try to just keep an eye on each other. We'll look at my colleague and say, hey, you're moving pretty slow. Why don't you go sit in the AC for 10 minutes and then circle back?
And don't expect a dip in the ocean to help cool you down either. Tuesday, the water temperature in Florida's Manatee Bay was measured at 101 degrees. And if confirmed, that would be a global record high. Even SAG-AFTRA and WGA East canceling planned labor protests in New York due to the heat tomorrow and Friday. And joining me now to break it all down is meteorologist Colin Myers. So, Colin, do you see any end in sight to this brutal heat?
Unfortunately, I don't, Tom, and that's a key stat you just mentioned there. That spot just on the southern tip of Florida, not far from the Gulf of Mexico, where water temps are running about 90 degrees or above. That's very, very potent when it comes to hurricane season. By the way, we're about to enter August, one of the most active months. So all it would take is a storm moving into the Gulf and open winds, and we'd have a problem. So we got to watch it. High pressure sitting all across the south, but it's expanded northward. Look at the heat alerts, okay? And these will fall off tonight, and I expect more to be issued tomorrow. That's the way each Weather Service office usually works. They'll issue them a little bit differently, but expanding all the way up towards near Chicago. Severe weather up here too, by the way. Several states, and look at the Southwest, just incredibly hot still to this day. Excessive heat warnings there, and excessive heat watches along the East Coast, so a lot going on. So what happened about a month to 2 months ago, this high pressure ridge kind of stayed to the south. Now that heat is expanded, and it lifted the jet stream north, so all the storm activity over our northern states now, and you can see expanding from the southwest and California to the desert southwest, the deep south, even up towards the northern plains. You saw those heat advisories expanding up towards the east. So the heat continues. One more thing to note, the severe weather has continued week after week. And as you saw, that jet stream lifting north today, that severe threat was a level 3. They've downgraded it tonight, but Chicago east towards Detroit up even. Here we are almost entering August. More severe weather. Tom.
Yeah, we cannot get rid of that heat soon enough. Colin, thank you. And over to the U.S. economy now. The Federal Reserve raising interest rates again, bringing the rate to a 22-year high.
The committee raised the target range for the federal funds rate by a 1/4 percentage point, bringing the target range to 5.25% to 5.5%.
Now, as rates have gone up, inflation has been falling and is at 3%. According to the Consumer Price Index, items like appliances, TVs, and other electronics are actually dropping in price, but necessities like rent, electricity, and food continue to move higher. The Fed meets again in September. All right, still to come, a robot could be changing your tires soon. How artificial intelligence is shaking up the auto industry. Next. Artificial intelligence and robotic automation are hot topics these days as the new tech is being introduced in a growing number of industries. Well, the next time you need to change a tire, as a matter of fact, you may find a robot working on your vehicle. And Trayson Bragg joins me now. So Trayson, do tire technicians have to be worried about their jobs?
Not at this point. And I have to say that that robot is impressive. I saw it in person. But the store manager that I spoke to says the robots are actually used more as a tool than a replacement at this point. The process of buying a new tire has remained pretty much the same for decades. You talk to a technician, choose a tire, and then wait. Well, that mundane process is getting a new and innovative boost at a discount tire shop in Arlington, Texas.
It's drawn a lot of attention from customers. People are fascinated with the brand new technology.
This location is one of at least 3 tire shops across the country offering this large, green, state-of-the-art, and some would even say futuristic tire changing experience.
At first it was intimidating. I mean, it's a big deal, literally.
The bay is built by a company named RoboTire and features 2 large robots that change tires, as well as plenty of cameras and sensors, even a self-tinting protective screen, all in the name of precision.
Sometimes the sun reflection can throw off the measurements in the laser and the camera, so it tints automatically to get accurate measurements and reading.
While this bay is impressive, when robots enter the workforce, there's always one question on everyone's mind. Will the robot replace humans?
No, I really don't see that happening, honestly, because it requires the human eye and the human hand to make sure this robot functions properly.
The store's general manager, Dazon Fisher, tells me at this point, completing a tire change, tire rotation, or any similar task using this cutting-edge tech is only possible with a tag team effort of human and robot.
We do have to scan the VIN. That transfers information to the system to where we get all of the proper fitments as far as torque specs, stud sizes, and the type of vehicle that we're servicing.
In fact, Fisher says humans complete about 15 steps in the process, including driving the vehicle onto the rig, followed by a number of safety protocols. Once complete, with the push of a button, it's the robot's time to shine.
Is removing these lug nuts. It's got interchangeable sockets here depending on the size of the lug nuts. It'll remove all 5 of those, place them down here safely on the nest, then it'll go up, turn around, and use these to grab the assembly off the vehicle and place it safely on the mat.
Allowing the employee to then enter the bay and replace or change the tire. Then
the robot uses this sensor here to image the tire, and it picks it up puts it on the assembly.
To keep everyone safe, no one is allowed in the bay while the robot is working. If any of the 20 safety sensors detects motion during operation, the robot will instantly stop moving until a human checks the entire bay, confirms it's clear, and pushes a button allowing the robot to continue.
The safety aspect is on point to where even as older as I am, I feel comfortable walking in there because of the safety features.
Fisher says the robot and human duo complete roughly 2 cars an hour. That's about the same pace as a human working by themselves. So why spend the money on this elaborate machine?
So the strength of the robot does help reduce some of the back injuries.
The idea was never to take jobs away. The idea was create a tool that can help supplement what the technicians are working with today.
Benjamin Wilson is the senior manager of operations at RoboTire. He says the robots and the entire bay are built, designed, and manufactured by a staff of 20 people in Plymouth, Michigan.
Most of the robot controls, or at least the sequencing, is done via a handheld that's basically like an iPhone.
Wilson adds tire shop employees are able to operate the user-friendly tech after just a few hours of training. As for the robot, at this point it has only one major limitation. It's unable to operate on lug studs, which is the hardware that secures tires on most European vehicles. But don't worry, Wilson tells me the company is close to finding a solution.
And RoboTire doesn't publicly release the full price for its bay, but Wilson says you can expect to pay anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 a month for the rig. Cool stuff though, right?
Yeah, that is really cool, although I guess we won't be seeing it in Europe, but here in the U.S., one of the things I found so interesting is that it's the same pace as a human.
Exactly. That was something that was really shocking for me too, because you're not speeding up the process, but you're saving the backs and really the health of your employees.
Preventing those injuries. Yeah, I can't decide if this is freaky or fascinating. Trayson, thank you for that. All right, coming up in the next half hour, are aliens real? The historic hearing on Capitol Hill about the unexplained phenomenon.
As we convene here, UAP are in our airspace.
Lawmakers demanding answers about UFOs. Sneaker culture taking over Capitol Hill.
As Congress gets younger, which is happening, you're going to see more and more people wearing sneakers.
Preparing students for back to school.
The more we can fill in the blanks in their head, the more at ease they will feel.
And a teen using some soap, water, and a little elbow grease to help kids with disabilities.
20 years from now, who knows where I'll live, but I'll know that I helped build that playground.
Turning now to Capitol Hill, and lawmakers holding an historic hearing regarding UAPs, otherwise known as UFOs. Former military and intelligence testifying today, saying they are more common than the government is letting on. And here's Karen Kafendow with a look.
UFOs are real.
As we convene here, UAP are in our airspace.
And the government needs to take reports of sightings more seriously.
These sightings are not rare or isolated, they are routine.
At least according to testimony from 3 former military and intelligence personnel making their case for more government transparency before a House Oversight Subcommittee Wednesday.
The American people deserve to know what is happening in our skies.
In April, the Pentagon said it was tracking some 650 incidents involving unidentified anomalous phenomena that are currently unexplained, but emphasized there was no evidence of extraterrestrial life or of objects that defy physics.
Well, if there's look at that thing. It's rotating.
But former Navy fighter pilot Ryan Graves and former Navy Commander David Fravor say they have seen UAPs up close and personal, performing unexplainable maneuvers.
We have nothing that can stop in midair and go the other direction.
And believe they may pose a threat to the safety of pilots and the country.
If UAP are foreign drones, it is an urgent national security problem. If it is something else, it is an issue for science. In either case, unidentified objects are concerned for flight safety.
The hearing just the latest effort by Congress to find the truth and what it means for us here on Earth.
Am I certain that all of these sightings are aliens? Of course not. But I do believe unidentified aerial phenomenon around our top secret military bases is a possible threat that we have to take seriously.
And let's get right on over to Karen Kafendow now. Karen, good to see you. What were the major takeaways from today's hearing and what happens next?
Yeah, a major takeaway, Tom, is that lawmakers and these witnesses want more transparency around the information related to UAP events. And again, leaning on this idea that there could be a potential threat to national security, something from our adversaries like China and Russia, and also danger to military and civilian aircraft. A chief complaint from lawmakers and some of the witnesses today was that this information is overly classified. And of course, when it comes to the extraterrestrial part of this, which I know a lot of people were tuning in for, one witness did claim that the U.S. government not only has these UAPs in their possession, but may have the remains of some of these allegedly non-human pilots as well. He got pressed on that by lawmakers and then seemed to back off a little bit, saying he didn't have that kind of firsthand information. This was just something he heard from others. But again, everyone really concerned about the safety, security, and also transparency of the information, Tom.
Yeah, it's certainly a bipartisan issue, I guess, extraterrestrials. Why the bipartisan interest in this topic, though, and at this particular time?
Well, the ball kind of got rolling on this last spring, Tom, when for the first time in about 50 years, there was a House hearing on the topic of UFOs or UAPs. And at the time, the Democrats in charge of the committee invited two government officials, two Defense Department officials, to talk a little bit about a Defense Department program that looks at these incidents. They wanted to take some of the secrecy and the speculation away from around that. Today's testimony did not have government officials talking, but there was a lot of discussion about more transparency, more understanding of these kinds of events. They say this is less about maybe non-humans out there, sorry, sci-fi fans, but really more about safety and security in the skies, Tom.
So important, so important. We'll be keeping our eye on this. Karen Caifa, we appreciate your time as always. Thank you.
You bet.
And now some of the moments that matter most in your community and your neighborhood. In the nation's capital, sneaker culture is coming to Congress. A group of lawmakers wants to modernize Washington's centuries-old dress code. The phenomenon started in May when House leaders wore dress sneakers to a meeting between congressional leaders and President Biden in the Oval Office, a room which for generations has been strictly loafers and Oxfords. Some lawmakers believe Congress is holding on to an outdated tradition of wearing uncomfortable shoes while carrying out the people's business.
I think there are some people for whom it is just purely a matter of, hey, these shoes are comfortable and I just want something nice on my feet.
Listen, I agree with these lawmakers. Two lawmakers formed a bipartisan congressional sneaker caucus, hoping to bridge the political and generational divide. Okay, still ahead, a tentative deal could avert a UPS strike as you prepare for back-to-school shopping. What's next and what's at stake? Plus,
the more we can fill in the blanks in their head, the more at ease they will feel.
Tips and tricks for a smooth transition for first-time students. We'll be right back. Over to your health now, and a salmonella outbreak that has sickened at least 16 people across 4 states in the Northeast. The CDC says 6 of the individuals had to be hospitalized. So far, there's been no related fatalities. Investigators say they've spoken to more than a dozen patients, most of whom said they remember eating ground beef from ShopRite stores recently. The CDC says the states affected are New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Massachusetts. The source of the outbreak, though, has not been located and no recalls have been issued as of yet. Meanwhile, a nasal swab in children with sinusitis can help reduce unnecessary antibiotic use. Researchers at the University of Pittsburgh say testing the swab for 3 types of bacteria can show if antibiotics will be effective or not. That's because sinusitis is something caused by a virus. They also found the color of the nasal discharge, yellow or green, does not help identify a bacterial infection. And heading back to school can be stressful for everyone, but for parents who are sending a child to school for the first time, it can be a huge transition. And while you can't prepare children for everything, health experts say you can set them up for a successful school year by starting now. And Mandy Gaither explains.
A new school year with new faces, a new classroom. It can be scary for any student, but especially those who are new to school.
They don't really have an idea in their mind of what this is going to look like. They don't have something to go off of.
Strong for Life licensed therapist Jody Baumstein says preparing children before school starts is critical in easing them into the classroom.
The more we can fill in the blanks in their head, the more at ease they will feel.
Baumstein says to visit the school so the child knows what it looks like. Meet the teacher and administrator so there are familiar faces on day one. Set up play dates before school starts with other families who have first-time students.
They can rely on each other and have some sense of familiarity when they get there so that they don't feel alone and so uneasy.
Finally, practice with school supplies. Baumstein says if your child isn't sure how to use or open something, it can create a layer of anxiety that can be avoided.
It might seem silly and unnecessary, but for kids, it's helpful to know that they're capable and that they can do it without you. And so the more opportunity you can give them a chance to try it in the safety of your home while you're right there if they need help, the more likely they're going to be able to have the confidence to do it on their own.
Mandy Gaither reporting there. Mandy, thank you. And over to your money now. It's almost time to stock up for supplies for school, but at a crucial time, U.S. consumer spending, as well as a devastating strike, still looms for UPS. Karen Caifa looks at how this could impact your back-to-school spending.
UPS and the Teamsters Union said they've reached a tentative deal on a new contract for about 330,000 UPS employees who prepared to walk out next week.
This is good. This is a start.
Those workers need to ratify the deal to avoid a work stoppage that would hit in the middle of the back-to-school shopping season, which the National Retail Federation estimates will generate $41.5 billion in spending. NRF says supply chain crises sparked by the COVID-19 pandemic prompted retailers to better anticipate disruptions.
We're obviously in the middle of back to school. That product is on shelves and stocked already. Heading into holiday, we know retailers are already in a good place with inventory and thinking ahead.
And consumers adapted too, starting shopping early to find deals to counter inflation and to get what they want.
There's a lot of tools out there. We know consumers have become adept at using them, and retailers have certainly built in their own systems for communicating with their shoppers about what is available and when and how long it might take to get to them.
UPS handled an average of 20.8 million domestic packages a day last year. Anderson Economic Group estimated a 10-day UPS strike would cost the U.S. economy $7.1 billion.
While the Postal Service and FedEx and some other delivery channels may pick up some of the slack, there aren't enough options available to the businesses and consumers alike today to replace the volume that UPS handles.
That was Karen Caifa. Karen, thank you. And next on Now, a kind heart and a creative mind.
As one teen, I've raised $3,000+. So imagine what 10 teens can do.
How this teen is working hard this summer for a place for all kids to play hard. That's next. And finally, here on this Wednesday night, to Hope Now. And a teen in Boston spending his summer raising money for kids with disabilities, hoping to leave a lasting impact in his community. Ken McLeod shares his story.
As he worked on a Jeep tonight, Kevin Winchell's mind might have wandered to his upcoming senior season, but his heart is in this summer job.
I wanted to actually do something and make an impact in the community.
So the 18-year-old, who's already doing an internship at a group home and volunteering at Mass General, formed Suds for Swings, washing and detailing sedans for $85 and SUVs for $107, and donating the money to convert this playground behind Peabody's West Elementary School into this inclusive playground welcoming to youngsters with disabilities.
That certainly wasn't on my radar at 17, 18. And I just think it's an incredible act of kindness and charity.
He's already invested more than 200 hours in the project, motivated by 2 recent hip surgeries that left him bedridden for a spell, and the desire to get kids away from video games. With 5 weeks to go, he's topped his fundraising goal and doesn't mind extending a challenge.
But as one teen, I've raised $3,000+. So imagine what 10 teens can do.
He says it's his chance to repay Wes Peabody for the upbringing he's received here. Pretty heady stuff for a kid heading into his senior year at a private school that's not even in town. But he contends he's getting as much as he's giving.
20 years from now, who knows where I'll live, but I'll know that I helped build that playground.
It's a charity roadshow for Kevin. He comes to his customers bucket in hand, and his detailing work is drawing rave reviews.
Good to see that in 18-year-olds today, that they still have that work ethic.
But if you'd like to see him tackle your set of wheels, bad news, he's already booked through the summer, and that detail is a pretty good reflection on him.
Ken McLeod reporting there, and one teen raising thousands. Kevin, we are cheering you on. That's it for us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night.